Welcome back to another episode of the Beyond the Blueprint podcast, powered by Lippolis Electric. I'm Steven Marcelino, Vice President of Sales with Lippolis Electric. This month, Lippolis Electric actually just hit its 41-year mark in the electrical construction industry. Lippolis Electric is a full-service electrical construction company offering services such as residential, emergency service, energy efficiency, commercial construction, and technical/engineered services. Today, I have the pleasure of sitting with Djula Canovic. How do you pronounce your last name again?
Djula Canovic.
All right, there we go. Listen, we're not going to cut that out because it's funny, but that's how you properly pronounce her name. If you want to know how to properly pronounce her name, don't listen to what I just said. You hear it right from the source here. Thank you very much for joining us today.
Thanks for having me.
So I kind of want to just kick it off, and dive right into it. So you've been in the life safety and fire industry for about 13 years as, recently in the last couple of years, an account manager. And I really want to know what your role has kind of looked like for high-rise fire and security, and who are you guys recently rebranded as?
Well, we're still high-rise fire and
Okay.
security.
Just
Scudem North America.
Scudem North America. Gotcha. So what is your role with your company, and kind of, what's your day-to-day look like in the fire and life safety industry?
So I'm an account manager with them now.
Okay.
If I could just give some background information on, how that all came about, because I didn't walk into the door just being an account manager. I had to definitely climb the ladder. I used to work in property management prior to this.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
So I was in the city, and it's actually one of the accounts that High Rise Fire is a vendor for.
Gotcha.
And one day, it's been piling up. You get that 5-year itch, and you're just like, I want something different. Like, I need to do more. And at that time of my career, there was just no room for growth. And right in front of my, at that time, current manager, pushed his shoulder back, looked at, Salah Ayub, at that time VP of product operations, and I said, "Are you guys hiring?" Right in front of my boss.
Wow.
Yeah. So 2 weeks later, had an interview. A month later, hired as a service coordinator.
Wow.
Yeah. And from there, I was working about two years as a service coordinator. And, I love telling the story because it was a little bit of a tug of war between sales and service on who gets Djula.
Yeah.
I'm humble, and I'll say that a lot during this during this podcast. I am very humble, but I ended up crossing over to sales and giving that a shot.
I mean, listen, it's, humility is very important to have through all walks of life, but at the same time, it is important to recognize and speak on your successes and also what you excel at in business or whatever it may be. And that's kind of the reason why you're on the podcast today, is to talk about yourself. So today you have free range, to put humility aside a bit and really talk to the people about what you've done and the accolades you've achieved over the last 13 years to get to the point you're at. With the gloves off, and let people know who you are and why you are so good at what you do.
Oh, I think I'm pretty good, but I definitely don't think I'm the best or the greatest. And, with my achievements and my, excelling within my career, I want to give credit to those that helped me get to where I am. And that's definitely my mentors, my colleagues, my superiors. Saul and Moses in the company had so much to do with recognizing what I could bring to the table, what kind of asset that I am for the company. I didn't know what I didn't know, had no idea that I had, qualities to be an account manager or a sales representative or whatever you may call it. And I think the moment that I realized that I could possibly do, sales is when the owner of the company, Michael, one of the owners, walked into the service office at that time when I was a service coordinator and says, "Hey, I heard you closed Apple." And I had no idea what he was talking about. And that was all through service calls.
Wow.
Scheduling technicians, being very responsive, hearing their needs. And, I guess, it traveled through the company. And, Moses, once they said, "I'd love to see if Djula can be on our team." And so once again, I have excelled, and I have definitely recognized a lot of characteristics and qualities that I do have, but they saw that in me and just enhanced it.
So you just said something really important, because Sales for myself as well. This was not like I went to school for it or
Yeah.
expected this to be a part of my life, so to speak.
Yeah.
Pretty similar to you, Carmine Lippolis recognized certain characteristics that I possess just from being Stephen Marcelino and who I am, and realized like these are the quality characteristics that I need on my sales team. So for you as well, you just mentioned some of the skills like returning customer requests, answering the phone, always having unbelievable customer service. These are skills that you can't learn in a classroom. I talk about this a lot. There's certain skills that sales representatives either have or they don't have. And at this point in our lives, if you're in your, late 20s, your 30s, 40s, whatever it is that, whenever somebody enters sales, it's almost too late in life to learn these skills. These are skills I believe that you grow up learning throughout life,
Yeah.
as you're developing and becoming an adult. So that's very interesting that you and I both have that in common, that, others recognize within us, these skills that are very important to have when working as a sales representative.
Yeah, absolutely. And I just want to give you some more credit. You're not just a sales representative. They didn't just see those qualities for a sales representative in you. You're a leader. They also see leadership values and morals and attributes within you. So kudos to you.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Absolutely.
That's awesome. No, I really appreciate those words. And, so throughout your time, you make that shift, the sales team poached you out of service. So service team went down a great, service manager, and now you transitioned into the sales team. So what did those early years as a sales representative look like for you,
Scary.
coming into it? And listen, it's, I could speak openly with you on this too, especially in a male-dominated industry. Especially, it's
So funny for that.
the construction world is it's a very volatile and fast-paced industry. That's no secret to anybody in the world. So you're in a new role. You're in a very high-strung industry. And did you have like a moment like, oh shit, what do I do now? Or like, did you kind of just hit the ground running? What did that look like when you first got into it?
Oh, where do I start? Where do I start right now, Stephen? There is so much that I could say about the beginning of my account management career, sales representative career. So they saw the qualities. I remember asking Saul, hey, if it doesn't work out, because I was so scared. I never thought I could be sales representative. I remember asking Saul, hey, if it doesn't work out, can I please fall back? Can I come back as a service coordinator? And he kind of did no. He said no, wanted to give me the motivation, that encouragement that I can do it, but also we won't let you go. Like, you can come back to service because we loved you here anyway, kind
Yeah.
of situation. But I walked in there and I thought of so many things, prior to going to High Rise Fire, I had an offer from a life insurance company. And that was when I was in the commercial property business. And the guy says, we'd love to offer you a position. You just seem like you're a go-getter and you can make this work, and et cetera. And I respectfully declined. And I said to him, I'm sorry, but I don't think that I have what it takes to be a salesperson and I'm sorry, because this is your life, this is your career. I'm not a bullshitter. I don't know if we need to cut that out.
No, you don't.
And I
have to.
can't lie to people. And he just looked at me and says, I'd love to meet your parents one day. And I was like, what do you mean my parents? He goes, yeah, you're very respectful, but you have, morals, and I like that. So going to High Rise Fire and, taking a sales representative role, I mentioned the same thing to Moses, and he goes, Jules, this is code requirements. You cannot give more than the code says. So you're not BSing anyone. In fact, you're their professional. They come to you for you to tell them what they need. Otherwise,
It's more.
they'll fail inspection.
It's more. You're taking a consultant role.
Exactly.
You're advising people on, this is what the book says. If you don't have it, it's either going to turn into a life safety issue or you're going to get an OSHA violation.
Exactly.
It's more or
or you
less-
won't pass
or you
inspection
won't pass
because
inspections.
the inspector will tell you you don't need a smoke detector here. Why do you have a CT1 module here, et cetera. So I felt so comforted by that, and I said, okay, I'll take it. The next thing was one of the things that you mentioned was it's a male-dominated industry. So I had a little bit of a fear, not that I couldn't head-to-head with, the men in the industry. It was more of, I am a woman, and am I going to be mistreated in any way? So, I know that I'm like the face, the cover of High Rise Fire when I show up to a, bid war or a walkthrough, an assessment, and there'll be other, like, contractors, et cetera, there. I haven't been in that environment, so I didn't know how I was going to be treated. So I did mention to Moses at that time, I said, if I know I'm the face of the company, but if I come across somebody that disrespects me as a woman, I will be taking the badge off and putting them in their place. And he just laughed and said, absolutely, Jules. And that felt comfortable too, that I got that support. It wasn't like, oh, we might have trouble in our hands, nothing like that. 13 years go by, I've never been disrespected. In fact, if there is somebody with a potty mouth, they immediately acknowledge that I'm in their environment and, ma'am, I'm so sorry. Like the complete opposite.
Yeah.
So I love that.
And I think, I bring it up because I'm really happy you said that, because I think there is a major misconception for women in construction. I think that over the last few years, it's been unbelievable to see what a lot of the women, especially in our own company that work with Lippolis Electric, what they've achieved in this industry, and the whole perception of male-dominated industry is all it is. It's just a perception, kind of similar.
Almost dissolving.
It's dissolving completely. I mean, I think it's dissolving completely, but I think it's always been, yeah. I mean, listen, a lot of the times, in the 70s and 80s, they say male dominated because that's when blue collar work was very gritty, hands-on,
Yeah.
Working in the sun, working in the -5-degree weather, like day to day, from executives all the way down to the first year apprentices. And, it wasn't appealing maybe for women to work in the industry, but I think that this industry is very welcoming to having women work in the industry. And all the women that we work with, they offer skills that men don't possess. And they can look at things differently. They can problem solve differently. And,
Your ratings are going way up right now.
the collaboration also is much better when you have, call it what it is, the female thought involved in a decision-making process. And I think, that you really do bring that to High Rise, and that overall, mindset that you bring. You're definitely a go-getter, and you're not afraid to walk into a room and make sure people know you're there.
Oh, thank you for recognizing that.
Yeah, and that's a very important characteristic. So why don't you talk, so now you brought us kind of through the beginning stages, very fast-forwarded version of your starting point with High Rise and where you were and where you went. What are some of the different, now that you're 13 years into it, some of the more technical offerings that you have? I know you're very proficient in ARCs, NFPA 72. Why don't you talk to us a little bit about the industry and kind of where it's going for any of the more technical listeners, or, construction companies that are looking for their next fire alarm vendor to deal with?
So one of the things, or several things, that High Rise Fire offers actually is we do consulting. So we can do design build projects. So we work directly with architects and or developers, and we sit at the table and we can design from the get-go. And it's usually for pre-construction budgeting, or we can be brought on after the building's already been built. Like there's currently an ARCs project that we're working on right now, where by the time we get equipment and start installation, it'll be topped off.
Wow.
And normally you don't want to do that. You want to try and get the runs into sleeves under the concrete, et cetera. At this point, we have to get more creative. And so a lot of problem solving and resolution and giving ideas and alternatives comes into play. And High Rise Fire has a lot of experience and team members that can provide that to them. We do provide engineering, so everything will be done in-house. So filing, designing, engineering will be done in-house. You don't have to, hire another, MEP engineer.
Gotcha.
But we work directly with the MEP engineers as well, based off on fire alarm already pre-approved or, FDNY approved drawings, or we can do that in-house for you and take it from A to Z. As far as other services that we provide, we do maintenance services as well, maintenance agreements. So it's not just, seeing it through construction, we'll see it through the life of the system or the life of, the site itself. Central station monitoring as well is also done in-house.
Wow.
Yeah, and we'll get into more like details about like new innovative ideas and like technology that has come out in regards to central station or fire alarm systems itself. But our auxiliary radio system, if you wanted to know a little bit more, I think it was originally like approved and or released by code in 2015. I think January 2015.
Well, I think it became a requirement for all new construction in
Yes.
2015 because prior to ARCs,
Yeah.
it was Warden phones,
Right.
correct? And the problem with the Warden phones were that it wasn't
Why am I here?
clean, clean line of communication for
Yes,
FDNY
absolutely.
in the event of a disaster or a fire, specifically with the whole unfortunate events with like 9/11.
9/11. Right.
So,
Yeah.
talk to us a little bit about how ARCS has kind of transformed overall life safety, not just from a construction perspective, but I guess how it changed the landscape for safety of people in buildings and whatnot throughout the city.
Yeah, I think that when you think of life safety systems, you automatically think about the occupants within the building, and that's why we're installing them, right? ARCs came about because we also need to think about the life safety of firefighter. Their lives matter as well. And you mentioned 9/11, and I think that's kind of where it originated or where it sparked. At that time, unfortunately, they couldn't communicate. There was a lot of clashing between the radio channels
Correct.
between all authorities on site. So they came up with the ARC system, which is not budget friendly for the developer, but protects everybody's life a little bit more. So adding more life safety systems within the building. And you have channel 11 and 12, I believe, that are strictly for the FDNY. You do not use the system. You do not use it to communicate with any, like it's a commercial building, whatever it is. You do not use it to communicate with residents or any of the tenants. It is
Gotcha.
strictly for FDNY. If there's a crisis involved, this is how they're going to talk to one another. That's what the system is really for.
Is there like a specific cutoff? Like, let's say a building is 5 stories or 10 stories. Is there a certain threshold that a building height passes that an ARCS needs to be implemented, or
If it's new construction, yes. It has to be considered a high-rise building. For ARCs, I believe it's 125 feet.
gotcha?
There are, and I don't have it in front of me, but I can always get the answer for you. There is, I think, exceptions. So you might be a high-rise building if you're existing, by the way. But if you don't have a cellar and or a subcellar, then you might not require it. This is like, so it gets a little tricky with existing structures.
Gotcha.
But if you're building a new structure, it's automatically required.
Yeah, anything that's based on existing, there's always different kind of like grandfather clause loopholes and different things that
Yeah, you
people
could file
squirm around in.
variances and try and see what the FDNY comes back with when the plan examiner reviews it. But I would never deter somebody from
Yeah.
Installing more life safety systems.
No, I think life safety is important because at the end of the day, if people get injured and hurt and whatnot, what good is your building anyways? That's kind of how I look at it.
The asset
And
is not just the real estate.
No, it's
the
not.
asset is definitely the occupants, the people.
100%. Your asset's only as good as the people that buy into it, and that's kind of where we go to on our end. We install fire alarm systems and whatnot, but on the preventative maintenance side, it's kind of the same mindset. If you have a facility or a building that's, fresh out of construction or, a few years old, whatever it may be, and you're not testing and maintaining your electrical infrastructure, it's like driving a car for 10,000 miles and never getting an oil change. Eventually, it's going to break down on you.
Yeah.
You may not know what day or what time, but it's going to break down, and emergencies and breakdowns, whatever you want to call them, never happen at a convenient time. It's going to be Saturday night at 11 p.m. or Sunday morning at 5 a.m. Something goes wrong. There's always emergency services and whatnot, sure.
Yeah.
But who wants to deal with that when there's measures that you can take, like performing annual infrared testing or shutting your switchgear down every 3 to 5 years, performing the maintenance and making sure that it's up to par. You use NFPA 72. I follow for building maintenance and testing NFPA 70E, electrical safety, and NFPA 70B, which is electrical maintenance.
Yeah.
So at the end of the day, fire alarm, electric, whatever it may be, My point is life safety is life safety.
Preventative maintenance.
And
Don't let it get to the point where the system is, this is actually a really good point that you brought up. Don't let it get to the point where you're out of luck and you need to make an immediate, upgrade or a change, because I think that unfortunately a lot of people think about their pocket and where are we going to get funding from, et cetera. It is much more productive for you that you continue with the preventative maintenance, because these systems are not budget friendly. They're not.
No.
Can you get tax exempt? Maybe. Can you get capital improvement? Most likely. But if you budget in advance, like for example, the systems don't last forever. It's an electronic system.
Yep.
So you do need to, and I think a professional fire alarm vendor, or, a professional in general in any trade that you're in will give you advance notice. Hey, listen, your, life expectancy of the system is coming to an end in the next 3 or 5 years. Prepare for it. This could be as per codes currently. This could be your budget for the following year, etc. I like to do this for my clients as much as possible and let them know in advance, so that, because I know that especially like with, I think honestly, with whatever occupancy type it is, whether it's a hospital, a school, residential or commercial, they do their yearly budgets around November. And they prepare for the following year. So I like to do this for my clients, let them know in advance, like, this might have to occur in, say it's 2026. This could possibly be the budget, because we don't know. Tariffs are affecting budgets, manufacturer increases, labor increases, etc. The company within itself might have certain increases for whatever reason. So you want to let them know that this is a possible budget for the following year, and then when you get closer you can definitely tighten the numbers and just know the accuracy of the scope of work, etc. But preventative maintenance is very important, and it lies on the professional to let their client know that this is the preventative maintenance you should be taking. It's their decision on whether or not they're going to move forward with it, but you should do your due diligence for your client. I mean, that's why you're their vendor, that's why you're their specialist, that's why you're their expert, I think.
I agree 100%. And, that's ultimately the goal at the end of the day. You buy, like you said, you buy an asset. You don't buy an asset because you want it to break down and fail. You buy it because ultimately they want to bring in revenue and they want to create a positive customer experience, whether it's a mall, an apartment building, a shopping center, whatever the asset is. But that asset's only as good as the mechanical, electrical, and plumbing operations that back it.
Exactly.
And run to failure is a terrible motto, especially in 2025. I think the world has been changing. I've seen it transform before my eyes. I got into the preventative maintenance world in 2020, right at the start of COVID, and every year, almost every 6 months, I've seen New York City specifically change, like before my eyes, with preventative maintenance. I'm like, holy crap! Because
in what way?
In a positive way. More people a lot of times were more worried about, all right, I have $100,000 budget. I want to get a new painting for the lobby and a couple new plants and, spruce the place up a little bit. But now, opposed to doing that, they're actually taking care of the back of house equipment.
Exactly. The skeleton of the building.
The skeleton
very
of the
important.
building. So,
and I'm seeing a lot more go out for bid. I'm seeing a lot more people interested in seeing what, like, not just keeping everything in one basket.
Well, I think the last few years for our industry in general has been kind of like a culmination of problems from COVID, the supply chain taking a beating year after year.
Yeah.
The economy's been fluctuating so much nobody could predict material costs anymore.
Yeah.
Especially for me, like commodity like copper through the roof,
Really?
and it's very volatile. And people are realizing that if my panel on the wall fails, it's going to cost me thousands of dollars to replace, or if a switchgear or, God forbid, a switchgear or transformer fails, it could be millions of dollars to replace.
Are you talking equipment, or are you talking about labor as well? Like all
Just
inclusive?
all in. It could be millions of dollars to replace things if they're not properly maintained. Opposed to the alternate, you invest, because I look at it not as spending, it's more an investment back into your property.
Absolutely.
You're investing back into the asset, and you're keeping it not only in safe operation, but you're keeping your system in maximum performance. So things like on the electrical side, where you may be experience experiencing misused power that's actually costing you more money because of resistance building up in the electrical circuit, and the utility company doesn't know that there's resistance built in an electrical circuit, so you're using more kilowatts per hour because you have resistance in your electrical circuit. And that could simply be fixed by tightening the screw or tightening the bolt or tightening, whatever mechanical lug is holding that wire in place, and identifying that through infrared testing before, aside from the lost money of that misused electricity, that could also become a fire. Mm-hmm. So now you didn't perform preventative maintenance, you're misusing power, you're spending more money on your utility bill now, and then ultimately, if that condition remains, it's going to start arcing and then eventually either explode or catch on fire.
So I have to ask you, what's the reason why somebody is not just doing that simple phone call and saying, hey, come and maintain my system or test my system, make sure it's up and running well and it's safe? Number one reason is
it's money.
But at the end,
I think it's
they pay more to repair.
They pay more to repair. Recent, in the last few years, I'm not going to name the location or the city or anything because it was a catastrophe, but we had a client at the time that we were able to offer very minimal cost. It was like $3,000 to inspect their main switchgear service. Mm-hmm. They decided not to do it because they didn't want to spend the money.
Okay.
4 or 5 months down the road, their entire switchgear service caught on fire.
Oh my God.
And it was like a 400-unit residential building.
Oh my God.
So fortunately, nobody was injured. The fire was contained. Everybody responded. But moral of the story is, a year and a half later, that turned into a $1.2 million repair for something that we probably could have identified in the initial service, put together a maintenance program to clean the condition, replace hardware, fix up the electrical enclosures, and get them back into safe and operable condition for a fraction of the cost that it initially costed them, and fortunately did not cost anybody's life.
100%. I want to piggyback on that because I feel like it takes two to tango, right? So I'm not saying like, Lippolis or anything like that, but in general, every specialist. And I try to implement this all the time. And some clients or, potential clients might look at you and say, it's a service I don't need right now. But what's our job, right? Not just to push out a quote, not just to tell them it'll cost this much money. This is why you reached out to us because you need this. Or someone might have mentioned to you prior to me visiting that you need this. If you want our company to do it, this is what it will cost our company to do it. Now, aside to that, we're going to tell them why it's required, why they should do it.
100%.
It is absolutely their choice. We're not pushing anything. But I just think as their specialists or anyone that's reaching out to me for, some intel or maybe a second opinion, I have no problem saying, the vendor you originally reached out to actually did inform you properly. I have no reason to turn around and say, no, they BS'd you, this is what you should be doing, or it's not a big deal. The truth is the truth, a fact is a fact. And if they're doing their job and they're doing it right and you came to me for a second opinion, they're doing the right thing.
I agree 100%.
But here's my number. You make your choice.
100%. And that's kind of like the approach I like to take. That was back in I think 2019 that happened, so that was pre-Stephen Marcelino being involved with the department. But the way I like to approach it, like you just said, is more of that consultative approach of, listen, this is your exposure, this is what we can do to help you, this is what it's going to cost, and these are the possible consequences if the service isn't performed. Yeah. Now, some people may say, "Oh, you're just fear mongering." Like, no,
I was thinking as you were talking,
I'm making people aware of,
and that's the best you could do.
And God forbid, they don't purchase the service, whether it's from us or somebody else. Yeah. They're aware this could have happened.
Exactly.
So I think that's always the best approach. Kind of just put all the cards on the table and make people aware. Listen, these are the codes that enforce it. These are the possible hazards that can arise if the service isn't performed. And these are the, operational /business impact outcomes that can occur if this, whatever the service, there's so many, you can't just pinpoint one or two problems, but these are the deficiencies that could arise if the service isn't performed.
Yeah, I agree with you 100%. Take that step forward to the client, letting them know that this is what's required, this is what you need, the exposure, et cetera, everything that you said. But not just preventative maintenance. Let's say you're quoting a new scope of work, right? Maybe new construction. One thing that I learned in the beginning of my career is, you don't know what you don't know. And so if I'm putting all this, new verbiage or new like industry, terms in front of someone that is new to construction generally, and I'm just learning this, I didn't realize they don't know what I'm talking about. So they're seeing all these new terms and, construction verbiage, and then they see a number and they're like, oh, what's this for? So another thing that I like to do for the clients is I think it's important to have a scope review with them. It's all in English, right? We're reading it, but you don't really know what it entails. You don't really know the full scope of work. I'm not writing out all the details of, where this module is going. I'm just letting you know, oh, the counts are such and such. This is what we're going to provide you with. This is what the system is. This is what the system will do. But there's a lot more involved in the labor and a lot more involved in the engineering, a lot more involved in the filing. So with every scope, I just feel like it's very important to have that scope review with the client and their team members. Whoever's going to be involved, any stakeholder should be on that call. And whether it's in person or Teams, a lot since COVID has been, virtual calls, meetings, and letting them know this is what this scope really is. And then, do you have any questions?
Yeah, I think that is very important. And you have to take the opportunity. You can't assume somebody's going to sit there and read through your entire scope of work. 9 times out of 10, people are not reading through it unless there is an engineer like review of a scope in the background. So it's always good. And personally, I don't like to even roll out proposals unless a scope review is performed first. So I know that once the person receives the cost, they know exactly why the cost is what it is.
Yeah.
Opposed to, having a reactive scope review. I know that's not always the perfect scenario, especially in new construction. More on like the operations and maintenance end, it's a little bit easier to do it because you're dealing with facilities opposed to contractors. It's a little bit of a different business atmosphere, so to speak. But I do 100% agree that scope review is 100% necessary.
Yeah.
If you're gonna, do the right job by the client.
Yeah, you want to do right by them. You want them to look at you and say, I trust this person. They understand that this is new to me, or even if it's not new, like what's different? Like what do you provide differently from another, fire alarm vendor or electrical contractor? And again, like I didn't know that early on, even though I'm a consumer, right? Like I purchase things and I have questions. And recently I had to get a, what's it called? A thermostat replaced in my car. Mm-hmm. A thermostat and a sensor. And they said CT1 to me. And I was like, oh, I know what a CT1 is, right? So let me ask some more questions. And I had them elaborate on what the scope of work is because obviously replacing a thermostat was very expensive, right? And 2 of my tires. So I'm like, can you justify this price? And I realized that if I'm doing that, the person that's reading my paper, my contract, my agreement, whatever, my PO, whatever it is, needs to know, what am I reading?
It's true.
What exactly is this? So I have to put myself in their shoes, even though I'm already in their shoes.
It's funny you do. My wife, she gets so annoyed because when we buy something, like it's ingrained in my blood. Like from being in the contracting business, you're around it my entire life, more or less, that everything I do is a scope review. Like I could be ordering something on Uber Eats and I'm like reviewing it, making sure everything's there. The price is this. The service fees are a little high. I'm gonna just go pick the food up myself.
Yes, I've done this.
Oh,
so it's only a 5-minute drive. It's a 10-minute drive. I'll just do this. Why would I pay $3 for that?
So it's funny. Everything in my life, or like if I'm buying something from a store, I'll ask the person 75 questions. And they'll answer every single question perfectly. I'm like, all right, perfect. Here's my credit card. They're like, wait, that's it? Like, I'm buying something. So, like you said, people grill me and go through everything line by line, different colored highlighters and rulers, checking it. Why can't when I'm on the consumer's end, why not? Why not? People do it to me all day.
Yeah.
I get grilled all day. See, usually I'm on the other side of it, like you are.
Yeah.
I'm the one that's always receiving the questions.
That's
and
where
whatnot.
the eye opener was for me, because I am that person calling me.
Yeah.
I'm you calling me. I've
100%.
had this before. I even call my brother, because my brother does custom work, and he works in cars, and he knows all these things. And I'm like,
very
okay, I
cool.
know, I don't know how to open the hood yet. I'm kidding. Okay,
No,
I could do an oil change if I had to.
Oh.
Watch my dad do that. But I called my brother and I was like, "Hey, how you doing? They're charging me this. They're telling me it's gonna take 5 hours." He goes, "YouTube, Djula, YouTube this video, and you'll see how long it takes. This is what you're supposed to do." And I'm just like, "This is what people do to me."
Yep.
You're not YouTubing how to install a fire alarm system. I don't think
No.
so. But
You hope not.
I don't know. But yes, I definitely understand my clients or my potential clients a whole lot more after that was brought to my attention. That was early on. So that's something I implement since that day, since like 12 years ago. I've implemented it on all my anything that goes out. Hey, let me know when you want to discuss, if you want to discuss.
As we wind down a little bit here on the episode, I want to ask a question for not only sales professionals, but more like technical/sales engineers, because that's more or less what we are, sales engineers. What is one piece of advice you could give a younger sales engineer or somebody that may be making a career shift into a sales engineering role to be successful in that role? What is if you could drop a major, piece of advice right now for somebody that is in a role that is depending on either life safety or medical devices, or what's that tip you could give that person that's listening?
Right away, the only answer I want to give is release that self-doubt. The hardest thing to do is not to doubt yourself, right? You have anxiety, you have fear, you're not a professional. I don't know this. I didn't know anything about fire alarm systems. They taught me everything. High Rise Fire has put me through so much training and continued training. I could build a panel if I wanted to now. Don't ask me to, but I can. Thank you, Billy. I don't know if you're watching, when you do watch. But let go of the self-doubt, the fear, and use any resources you have around you. That's what they're there for. We automatically, we want to self-diagnose ourselves. We want to self-diagnose when we think we have a medical concern, right? Oh, is it a cold? Is it allergies? Whatever. So we go to Google, right? My Google are my colleagues. So we have extensions, and it's like on speed dial. I know who I need to call if it's going to be an engineering issue or a concern. I know if I have a question about installations or something like that, I know who I can call. If it's a code requirement, I know who I can call. So my biggest advice is be more confident in yourself. It's much easier said than done. I know it took me years to feel more confident and comfortable to talk about the profession, to talk about my experiences and the knowledge that I have now. But it's release the self-doubt. Don't be afraid. A lot of people don't know what you don't know. They don't know what they don't know either. I love saying that. And use the resources around you. They're there for a reason,
Very nice. Thank you very much. And one thing I want to add in there as well, because we were all talking about it before the episode started, was don't tell yourself no. Let other people tell you no.
Yeah.
Before you just have a grand idea that you want to roll out to somebody, or you have a cost, a cost negotiation potentially, or, scope additions, whatever the scenario may be, let the buyer tell you no.
Right.
Don't just say, this is a bad idea, I'm not going to do it. Because like Wayne Gretzky says, you miss 100% of the shots you don't take. So I think confidence ties into all of that. At the end of the day, once you're confident in yourself and you're confident in what you're selling or talking about, whatever the scenario may be, you're going to be more confident in not telling yourself no and asking 101 questions so you don't miss any of your shots. So
Oh, absolutely.
I
I've had
appreciate
people
that.
tell me, I can't believe you just asked that. Okay, dang, rejection, got the no,
Yep.
right? But
let them tell you.
Yeah, but a lot of the times I get responses that, I'm hoping for the yes and I get the yes.
And listen, a lot of the time too, you are going to be told no.
Yeah.
It's just a part of the game. If everybody was told yes to everything, there would be no need for us. The owner of the company would be able to run everything themselves because they know they're going to get all the work that they need in the world. But a part of the game, the biggest part of navigating the mindset behind becoming a sales rep, especially in our industry, or any kind of like high pressure sales environment, tech, medical devices, construction supplies and services. You're going to be told no, probably more than you're told yes in the beginning. But once you build up your customer base and you get really confident in what you're saying, those no's are going to start transitioning into yeses. And also, one thing I want to say too is if you're told no, do not give up on that person.
Right.
Because you might not do business with them in that immediate moment or that year.
Perfect. I was
or in
gonna
those
say that.
2 years, but 5 years, 10 years down the road, that person might call you up because they realize you're the only person that can help them.
Yeah, I want to piggyback on that with conflict resolution, style, and rejection. How do you handle rejection?
Yep.
So if someone tells you no, it's, do you get sour about it? That's self-reflection. Work on your ego. If you got an ego in sales, you're not gonna make it.
You're not.
Well, if ego affects you, let it affect you privately. Work through those feelings or whatever it is that you thought you should have gotten or whatever response you should have gotten. Work on that by yourself. There's all types of personalities out there, and you're gonna meet them all, and you're not gonna match with all those personalities either. So it might not be even you or your professionalism or how many years your company has in the business. It just might be that person. So don't take it personally. But how do you also deal with conflict resolution? So if they tell you no now and they give you a reason for it, I don't like you, you're going to get a call. You may get a call. There's a high chance you're going to get a call because why did they go with the other vendor? I've had calls come back to me, clients come back to me with a call saying, "Not you're right. Never you're right. I don't care to hear that I'm right.
No.
I care to tell them, what can I do for you now?" That's it.
Yep.
Conflict resolution. I want to be your problem solver. I want you to know that when you come to me that you might not get a yes, you might get a no, and I'm not afraid of saying no to anybody,
Yep.
but, with justifiable reasons. But I want you to know that you can come to me and it's, okay, Djula's going to have an answer. Might not have it now, might not really know exactly how to answer you. But again, resources. I know who I'm going to call,
100%.
and I love getting creative. One of the reasons why I love my job is it's so creative. Oh, you read plans every day, and you count every day, and you bid every day. And I also meet many new people every day. And I also get really complicated projects, multi-million-dollar projects, where I have to find resolution and work with, some really great minds in the industry. Like I could sit at tables with someone that can design, multi-million-dollar jobs that I'm sitting with stars. That's how I feel. It's not. I don't think I'm the star. I think they're the star.
Very
Although I would
interesting.
wear that crown over there. I did tell you I'd wear that crown and walk around with that and
funny.
have Billie Eilish song on in the background. That song, "Put on My Crown," or you're gonna have to play that on this podcast.
I'm
now.
not familiar, but maybe
At the end.
maybe we could cut in a quick clip of Billie Eilish's song with if there's no copyright infringement problems, because I don't want her label to own my
She's-
episode of this podcast.
On the radio, so it's up for grabs.
Listen, I really appreciate you coming on and speaking with us today.
I appreciate it. Thanks for having me.
It was definitely a great episode, very technical and high level for the sales and industry listeners, which I really appreciate. So, and again, to all those viewing the Beyond the Blueprint podcast, thank you for watching another episode. I hope you have a great day.